Amy and I are the analytics team, like Jamie mentioned, and we've been working together. So, Amy, do you want to go ahead and take a quick second to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Payne. I am the Managing Director of Analytics for the new digital content and channel team. I say new because it's a little redesigned since the spring. Basically, we oversee anything tied to Google Analytics, as well as all things campaign related. So when the organization wants to see how we're doing from a recruitment standpoint, Shelby and I have produced those reports and share them out just like we're doing today with you. That picture is of my puppy, Duncan, just because he's cute. And I do work from home in New York State. I'm about 320 from the city without traffic, which never happens. So that's why I live and work out of my home and visit frequently, but not lately. So if I haven't met you, maybe someday I will. Thanks, Shelby.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, and my name is, as Jamie mentioned, I'm Selby Smith. I report to Amy. I'm the manager of analytics for the digital content and channels team. I've been working in marketing for 3 years, and in that time I've specialized both in insights and analytics. I was a 2009 core member in the St. Louis region. I taught both middle school and high school math, and I was a 2009 graduate of Western Michigan University. Which we're feeling really good right now because we just found out that college game day is coming to our campus this Saturday. So when you're at a MAC school, that's kind of a big deal because that never happened. So I got to give a quick shout out to my Broncos, who are one of 2 undefeated football teams right now, the other being Alabama. And in my personal time, I study improv and I practice sports type field, marathons, CrossFit, and softball lately with the TFAs, so we have fun out there. Thanks, Jamie. Yes, and definitely none of us did see the Broncos coming. So yeah, that's our quick intro. And with that, we can dive right into some of the strategic pillars. So, as you can see, our first, this is kind of like the main thing we wanted to ground ourselves in. At this point, I understand most of you are familiar with our digital first, base first strategy on marketing. But as a refresher, or in case of those who are not as familiar, you can see on our screen our mantra of how we're prioritizing marketing and communication and outreach towards our base this year. And the digital medium is the top priority avenue by which we'll be looking to connect with them. So to execute on this vision, that means we'll be building digital content and story framework and delivering key messages and amplification that generate and recirculate pride in Teach for America, pride in our collective impact, as well as progress and the integrity of our brand promise. So hence, we're going to focus on an agenda to integrate our digital strategy into a comprehensive regional communication support structure that gives energy to our base. And yeah, so it is a digital world, as you can see. And from a digital standpoint, there really is only one goal, and that is getting your audience to take a desired action. So that can be a desired action from reading an article or clicking a link or viewing a video, signing up for a list or application, making a donation. If we were to compare ourselves to a company in the for-profit business sector, you might also say, in that case, making a purchase. You should know the action that you want to take from every single post, or as you see on your screen, you should not post it. But what is the real secret? The real secret of digital is that when you're part of a large organization that has a comprehensive digital strategy, each channel requires one another to function as a sort of best-in-class experience. So we're all basically, all that is to say, we are very interdependent on one another. as a region, your microsite is the center of your online presence in the world. They bring a region's narrative to life through stories, videos, images, information, news, and events. They serve as a comprehensive digital touch point that prospects use to make informed decisions about teaching. Often that's tailored. They offer tailored support and connections for core members and alumni as well. This is cool. Is that a comment or is that background noise? I think that's background noise. Regional, just a quick note then on regional microsites. As you guys can see, as a region, I think this might be similar to what I just said, but it is kind of your regional microsite is your presence in the online world. So again, like similar to what we just touched on, a lot about tailoring support to core members and alumni, and also looking to outreach toward prospects. So to give a quick overview of the current state of where things stand on regional microsites in general, I just want to point out two quick things. One is that currently most of the traffic on your website is likely organic and driven by recruitment and offer acceptance windows when prospects are comparing regions in order to make decisions on their assignment preference forms. So very likely, as we go through, we expect traffic to spike around those windows because they want to learn about your region. So that is a very direct motivation for people to want to visit the site and learn more about it. Secondly, unless your region currently has a strategy for continually driving people back to your site, such as refreshing a blog, email outreach with links, or maybe promotion on social media, unless you have those things already in place, the numbers that you see in your reports, in the initial monthly reports, will likely be low compared to the overall traffic that we report for teacheramerica.org. I just want to caution that that is all to be expected, and we also expect your data will increase as you get familiar with the reports and start to develop and enact strategies for increasing traffic and online engagement. So don't sweat, we are all here to learn. And in order to accomplish all this, just like I said, everyone needs at least a basic level to know how to assess their performance and interpret data. And that's what we're going to carry on and discuss today. So before we go any further, we'll kind of get into the meat. We're kind of working towards the meat of things here. I just want to first ground ourselves in some key terms. Starting off by going a little bit high level, we have analytics. And the basic definition of analytics, as you can see on your screen, boils down to it is the field of data analysis. So analytics decisions typically involve studying past historic data and researching potential trends so that we can analyze the effects of certain decisions or events or to evaluate the performance of a given tool or scenario. And then Google Analytics, on the other hand, to differentiate that from the prior term, is not so much a skilled field of work, but rather it's the primary tool that we use here at Teach for America in order to assess our digital performance. So Google Analytics is a service offered by Google that generates detailed statistics about the website's performance and traffic sources and measures conversions and sales. Sales in the case of for-profit companies. We don't obviously dabble in sales too much, but that's one way that it would be used more broadly. So as you can see here, just kind of like what can these reports show us at a high level. Analytics allow us to assess our digital performance by answering a few different questions. It can identify demographic information about who is visiting our site, so that being our audience and how effective we are at bringing people from our desired target, as well as allowing us to break down different target segments. So kind of like that overall view, as well as ways to break down prospects and people who may fall outside of the prospect category, like core members and alumni. So that essentially is the who question for our website. From a discovery standpoint, we can then answer the how, such as how are people finding our content, how are people being driven to the website, which method is driving the most traffic. We can answer questions like that. And then you go down to the next box with consumption and engagement. We are essentially looking at the what. So what are people looking at on our website? What content gets the most views? What are people clicking on? What are people sharing? And also, of course, retention is another one. That's a question of interest. Marketers and site managers, as we typically want to know how many people are returning to our site. And of course, when you assess people who are returning to your site, that kind of loops back to the same questions above about returning audience members, how they're discovering, and the content methods that might bring people back more so than others. So we learn about our audience, and we can also learn about people that we are retaining. All right, what's happening? Really quick, can I get some feedback here? I'm getting an error report from WebEx. Can you guys see my screen okay still, or did I lose WebEx also? Yep, it looks like I just got kicked out. Not fun. Oh,
it's okay, Zoe. Just try to log back in.
Yeah,
you see your screen, but
right.
you probably, yeah.
Probably
you see your screen, it's probably you just can't, yeah.
Losers.
Do you see me changing window views, or is it just frozen?
Just frozen.
Okay. Not a big deal. I will refresh this in just a second.
You're good. We'll bear with you.
Thank you. Much appreciated. If anybody has questions so far, hey, go ahead and type in the chat. Talk more about Western Michigan football if you want to. All right, come on. Might be an internet connection.
Well, they like you. So my direct message to them. Or not direct message to them. Tweet. Right, but that was me writing to them the same way they wrote to you.
There we go.
Like I sent them a message the same way they sent you, so that they told people that you were. Well, I'm sure it is. It's Twitter. Yeah.
Might be a good opportunity to do a mute check also. Right. And I am back in the room.
I'm on a Google Analytics webinar.
Also, if you're on the line right now, you might want to check and make sure you're mute still. I think I can faintly hear somebody's conversation. All right, and I think I'm back. So tell me that you guys can see my screen.
You are. Yep,
All
you're
right,
good.
cool. Okay, great. Thanks for bearing with me. Sorry about that, guys. Before we go any deeper, I do really quick just want to give a brief overview of some logistical notes so that way you know what to expect as far as delivery. I think you guys have already kind of dabbled your toes in this, but I just want to really quick give a brief refresher. And I do want to make one final point of clarification on this particular slide, that these reports, as I understand it, we're going to send these reports to our CMDs the first of every month with the web data from the previous month. And as noted at the bottom, regional marketing captains can expect to receive those reports along with an overall summary from the RCMD within approximately the first week of the month. Our CMDs will take care of the summary feature from our end on analytics. We'll be making sure that you have the reports, which consists of 4 pages, highlighting different performance dimensions. So you'll receive the overview report, which will offer a quick breakdown of the different pages on your microsite and the kind of traffic that they're each individually receiving. With the source medium, that will break down the sources directing traffic to your site. And we'll have more on that in a minute, in case some of you are wondering what exactly that means. And then city location, perhaps a little more self-explanatory. This just breaks down the geographic data of where someone is physically when they access your microsite. And then, of course, device is a breakdown of traffic by tablet, smartphone, and computer. And by computer, we mean laptop or desktop, either one. So, and with that, we can take one more step towards the meat of this. With this slide, I do want to point out that Jamie did share with you all a Google Doc that had our Google Analytics list of terms on there. So rather than going through this slide in depth, that may even be a little too small for some of you to read on your screen, I would just ask that you refer to that, or if somebody has the link, we can probably chat that into. But that will have a really good breakdown of and the view, I think, is a little bit friendlier also, where you can see the different terms as we use them, and I think the definitions are helpful there. And I'll probably refer to that throughout this deck as well, that you guys can look that stuff up. Rather than reading through each of these, what I'm actually going to do is go ahead and guide us all through, sort of explain and demonstrate at the same time what these terms mean and what they look like in action. So if you're able to go back and forth, if you have the sheet open, this might be an advantage for those of you who have an extended desktop available. But of course, you can chat in or stop me if you have any particular questions as we go through. Okay. And so what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to exit the PowerPoint, and we are going to take a quick look over at some of the regional reports as examples. So we're going to use San Diego, and these will be, and I thank San Diego for allowing us to have them serve as an example. And I'll go through exactly what each of these tabs look like. So the first, as we mentioned, the first report you'll receive will be the overview report. And just to review, the purpose of this report is essentially to answer questions such as what people are looking at microsites, what content gets the most views, and how long are they staying. So when we look at this report, you'll see that the dimensions, as I scroll down, this is kind of by each individual date, the number of page views that we see throughout the month of December. And if you scroll down to the table section, you'll see the dimensions listed vertically on the left-hand column here with the different pages on the San Diego microsite that people visited during the month. If you look across the top from left to right, we see, I'll move the chat over just a little bit. If you look across the top here, you see that we have the different measures for which we have data for each of the page URLs. So the first thing that we're going to see here, and I'm just going to kind of move through these from left to right, are we have page view versus unique page views in these first two columns. The page view is the number of times a page is viewed overall within a date range, and it includes instances when a person revisits or reloads a page multiple times within a single session. So if they go on the website and then leave the page and then come back, if they want to review something, that will count as 2 hits. For that, or excuse me, 2 page views for that page. Now, you might question what is a unique page view. The unique page view, on the other hand, is the number of sessions within which a page was viewed. To put that another way, it's the same as page views, except it will not count multiple instances of a page view within a single user session. So in case you're wondering, I can just kind of demonstrate what this looks like in action. If I go to, say, I Google Teach for America San Diego, and that will probably, and sure enough, it's the first thing that comes up. So this is me viewing the home page for San Diego. So under our Google Analytics report, that's the top one right here, San Diego Teach for America.org homepage. So that would be 1 page view for me. Let's say I want to go look at alumni. And I learn a little bit about what's happening there, resources for alumni, and then let's say, actually, you know what, I want to go back to that home page and search something else. This would count as a second page view, even though I'm in the same session. So this would count as 2 page views. However, because it took place within the same session, it would only be 1 unique page view because I can only view it once per session. Next up, page view. And also, a quick note I just want to add here is that the page views do not add up to 100% of the total, as we have we have only rows 1 through 10 out of 36 available. And there are also other pages within the site, so that'll throw off that number a little bit. So when you see the total at the top here, that's not going to add up to an even 100. And what else? So if we look over at the next column, we see users, and you might be able to guess the definition, but I do want to be clear. A user is a person, either new or returning, who has at least 1 session within a given date range. So hence a single person may have multiple sessions recorded within a month or a quarter, but as a user, that person would only be recorded once in the users category. This used to be what we would call visitors, but now we call it users because that is a change that Google Analytics made. So these effectively you can think of these as representing people, as opposed to necessarily the number of sessions. Even though it's not listed on this particular report page, I do want to take a moment briefly to differentiate this from another metric that you'll see on the following page, which is sessions. A session is any time a user accesses your regional site within that specified date range. So a session comes to an end when either a person leaves the page or becomes idle for more than 30 minutes. So a new session begins when that person visits. So similar to page views versus unique page views, 1 person can have multiple sessions, but they would only be counted as 1 user. So the next thing that I just want to point out is that if you look at our list here, we see the pages listed in descending order of the number of overall page views. Things that can affect the number of page views or unique page views and or users might be whether and how something was promoted, the date that it was posted, we'll have examples of that, and the topic that was covered, as well as the content generally. Or maybe it could also be that people were or were not into it. So there are a few different contextual factors that we'll want to consider there as we read through this. And I'll dive into some more anecdotal analysis in a second, but first I just want to round out the remaining categories. So as we move through across this list, bounce rate. Bounce rate is a percentage of single sessions in which the person left your site from the page that they came to and did not come back. So for all sessions that start with this page, bounce rate is the percentage of those sessions where there was only 1 view in that session. So a bounce rate page is basically sessions that started and ended with that page without bouncing to any other pages. So for instance, when I visited the San Diego homepage, if I were to do that again, let's say I go through here, I click on teaching here, which is under the San Diego page, and I say, wait a second, this isn't where I want to be, this isn't telling me anything, so I am just going to go now and leave back to Google. That would be a bounce because I just entered that 1 page and then said, nope, never mind, and went back to whatever else I was doing. So I left the site. That would be a bounce. If, however, I were to click anything else on the site when I got to this page, if I clicked alumni, then instantly it's no longer a bounce because I have now clicked on multiple pages within that session. So that will not be recorded as a bounce. There's a subtle difference here when I go to %exit. I want to make sure that I differentiate these. This is also an important stat. The exit rate tells us for all page views on that page, the exit rate is the percentage where that page was the last page they viewed in a session. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they bounced. This stat would include people who bounced because they did effectively exit immediately after viewing that page, but it would also include people who may have clicked around before going to that page and then exited, whereas the bounce rate only includes people who landed on that page at the first page during their visit and then immediately left. So hopefully that makes, hopefully we're understanding that, and I can go through that and give a little bit more example answer questions. Finally, the last one we see is average time on page. As you might imagine, average time on page simply measures how long users spend on a page on your site, and that's calculated as an average in this instance versus just overall time on that page. So I know that's a lot of me talking and a lot of groundwork to lay out here. I just want to take a second here and kind of like walk through like how we have the advantage of this report being right in front of us, what we might look at and how I might do an analysis of this. So in the case of San Diego here, a few things that we see. So no surprise that the home page is has the most page views of any site, also has the most visitors. That's kind of something that we would sort of hope to see in a certain sense, that is kind of the gateway, the base of the page. That's why they call it the home page. From here, we see teaching here has a lot of traffic. If I put my prospect is core member cap on and think about that, yeah, if I'm doing research on the website, I want to learn about what it's like to teach there, if that's the information I'm looking to find out. So this can also tell you a little bit about who your users might be. Now, one of the reasons that we wanted to focus on San Diego today is San Diego, if you look at lines 3, 6, and 9, it's pretty easy to memorize, I guess. If you look at the multiples of 3 lines, they have a blog that they've kept pretty up to date, at least certainly in the month of September, where they have different stories. So all these come from San Diego stories, and we can see right here the traffic that they're getting overall. Move that so we can actually see the title of the rows. We can see the number of page views that each of them have gotten, as well as the users, the bounce and exit rate, as well as their time on page. So this tells us a few different things, and we can compare these different ways. So for one, we see that the TFA consultant who joined the core article, which is, you can still visit right here. So this was an article posted September 27th, and it's got the most page views. However, another thing, when we compare that against the other 3 articles on lines 6 and 9, we see it also has the highest bounce rate, which means that people went to that page and then left immediately after without clicking on anything else. So depending upon what the goal was for this article, that's a pretty high bounce rate. You'll see with the other 2 articles, TFA, one of the best decisions I've ever made, had a bounce rate of about 73% or so, or 3/4, and an exit rate of a little over 50%. And the story, True Reflection of Our Students on the 9th row, had a bounce rate just a little under 2/3 and an exit rate of exactly 40%. So with these latter 2 stories, I see that people who visited it, although their numbers are lower, they tended to hang around a little bit more. And this also raises the question about other contextual factors. We see that they also viewed the articles longer. So in Best Decisions I've Ever Made, it was 5 minutes. True Reflection of Our Students, just a little under 5 minutes. Consultant who joined the core was a bit of a quicker view. It was at about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So if I look at these pages, a couple of things stand out to me. One was, as I already mentioned, this article about the consultant who joined the core was posted on September 27th. And we're looking at a report for the month of September, which means that all these page views, 487 page views on 423 visitors, occurred in a 4-day span, the 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th. So that was really racking up a lot of views. So first question, and I do kind of know the answer to this, was this promoted? And I believe I've actually, having talked with one of the RCMDs earlier, I believe this was actually promoted via social media. So that explains why it was very successful, even though it was only posted for a relatively short window of time during the month of September. It's probably, if we were to look at the October report, I wouldn't be surprised if it also had a rather high number of views bleeding over into the month of October. If we look at these other 2 stories, TFA, one of the best decisions I've ever made. This was posted mid-September, Monday, September 12th. So it had a few less, views relatively, even though it was posted for a longer window of time in the month of September. And True Reflection of Students was actually posted in the second to last day in August here. so it didn't really get as much, unless it got a lot of traffic those first few days in August, it didn't really seem to get much in the month of September. We can go back and compare those. Another thing that this makes me think when I look at the bounce rate, we see that this did struggle a little bit, that this did struggle with a rather high bounce rate. That's not always a bad thing if you really want people to just get information and promote. However, if the strategy here is to get people to see that story, TFA consultant who joined the core, and then click around a bit, then it wasn't that effective in that regard, even though it had a higher number of page views to work with. But that's one thing to think about is like, what is your goal? Do you want people to read this article and then click around to want to learn more about, say, for example, teaching here? They can do that, but we didn't really see that very often with this particular article. And then lastly is time on page. Consultants who joined the core, the time on page was less than the other two, than Best Decision I've ever made, and it was less than True Reflection over students. Both of those had around 5 minutes, whereas this only had about 320. If I scroll through it and I look at it, this is a rather short article, so that actually makes pretty good sense. So I think I heard in preparing for this that they were looking at like a 2-minute read time, so maybe more of that what we call snackable content. And this didn't do that bad. This was 3 minutes and 20 minutes, 3 minutes and 20 seconds, a little bit longer than that 2 minutes that somebody might be shooting for, but ultimately a pretty good brief viewing time. And it seems to suggest that they read the whole thing, which is also encouraging. These latter two articles, I think, were a little bit longer, so it makes sense that they would have taken longer to read. Again, that slightly higher time on page suggests that people may have actually stayed around and read the whole article in a lot of cases. And they had a lower bounce rate, so they were also clicking around, and that was a part of their visit as opposed to being their entire visit. So, yes, very nice work, San Diego, and thank you for serving as our example in this case. I know that's a lot of me talking. I've been trying to keep a half an eye on the chat. If you have questions, again, I'll be happy to talk about those more at the end. The good news is this is by far, of the 4 reports you're going to receive from us, this is by far the most detailed and nuanced. So these next couple, we can go through a little bit more quickly, and I can definitely get to questions in time. So next up, we have our, again, sticking with the region of San Diego, in the month of September, we have our source medium report. So source and medium, it tells us a couple of things. Source is basically the website that they came to us from, and medium is basically how Google Analytics buckets that source. So in the case of organic, you see that at the top of this list here for the region of San Diego, we have Google/organic. So that means the source was Google. They looked this up. And essentially what Google Analytics does, pardon the tongue twister, is they bucket all search engines, Google, Bing, Yahoo, into this medium that they call organic. So it essentially, in most cases, means a search engine. So the purpose of this report, the questions that it can answer for us are, how are people finding our content? What method is driving the most traffic to the site? They can also tell you a little bit about your users. So if we look at this top row, if they're finding us via Google, that suggests that they may be doing research at the time specifically about CFA. They probably did, just like I did at the beginning, type in Teach for America San Diego. However, if they find us via a referral, that's also good news. That means that they saw that either we were promoting something or somebody else was sharing our link out, and that's how they discovered us that way. So our targeting efforts may be paying off. For instance, right here we have mobileface.facebook.com. Referral is basically just any time they click a link from another website. That tells us that, okay, so if we were posting things on Facebook, on mobile Facebook, or I should say Facebook, but they were actually sent via a mobile device, that was the second most effective. Whatever we're doing there is working, and we can ask the question then, do we want to try to build off of that number going forward and get more aggressive with our promotional efforts? You also have standard Facebook, which just means that they were viewing it on a standard computer as opposed to a mobile device. As I walk down here, we also see Yahoo. Again, that's organic. Another one that I haven't mentioned yet, but is CPC. We get questions about what does CPC mean. That means cost per click. So what that means is we actually paid Google to promote us when certain key terms are switched. We get those paid suggestions about, hey, were you looking for the San Diego site on Google Analytics? And so they click on that. So that means their cost per click efforts are working. This third one right here, direct none, that's also another one that I want to call out. When the source is direct, that means that essentially there was no source. So they typed in directly to the microsite, or maybe they had it saved on their browser, and so there's no real medium bucket category. It just means that they came right to us, which means that they're probably somebody who is familiar with the website or has visited us before, and they know exactly what they want, what they're looking for, because they came directly to us. So that's also good news. Really quick, just to kind of give other kind of some background about why this might matter. One, and I think you might have already heard this in the explanations that I provided, we do know that millennials, people all over the millennial age spectrum do research before taking an action, and a lot of companies are figuring this out. So digital presence is very important, and a lot of ways that they do that research, of course, is online. Also, the regional microsite content should really reflect this. And also, again, organic traffic is very informative that they're probably doing research. And the email or social traffic that you sent out really speaks to your marketing efforts. These are some things to keep in mind as we go through. Right. Next up, we have, and one more thing that I do want to call out that I almost forgot. I do want to also point out that the key metric here is defined in terms of sessions, which means the number of times people visited us. So these may be multiple users. So when I said direct none, and so that may be people coming back, although we don't have the breakdown here. Sessions may be people who have visited us multiple times, may have multiple sessions throughout the course of a month. And it also may be unique users. We just don't have it broken out. Right here, we see users again, and this would be city location. So this is a third report that you'll receive from us, and this just tells us where they're accessing us from. With the city report, basically it says where are they coming from, where are they coming to us from. We have essentially Google Analytics reads the IP address where people are coming from, and that can tell us their geography. Reasons why this matters is a lot of times you'll want to know that people out of state are researching your region, or you can tailor your marketing efforts and or content to match their needs if you are looking to appeal locally, if you want to maintain sort of a concentrated recruitment effort by people who know your area. So in the case of San Diego, if you want to make sure that people are mostly coming to San Diego, you may try to promote and see how your efforts are working via these digital analytics. Are we getting people from within a certain home range of San Diego? Or if you want a broader appeal nationally, then you would try to track how much traffic you're getting from other cities. As you can see, San Diego is not surprisingly at the top of the list. Los Angeles, just a couple hours away, is also people from that city are also frequent flyers. New York does tend to show up on a lot of reports generally, I think in large part because New York is a really big city, and a lot of people come from here because I'm in New York. There's about 10 million people, so there is kind of a curve with some of these larger metropolitan areas. You also see Washington and Chicago there. And then you see some smaller cities not too far away, like, I might not pronounce it right, but Chula Vista are also very prominent there. So that's how we would look at that. And then lastly, we have our device report. I told you these last three would go by quick. So the purpose of this is just to know essentially how are people viewing your site. We have it broken down both by sessions, by bounce rate, and by pages per session. And essentially what this tells you is just which device they're using the most. One thing that desktop is interesting, we see that people, if you're doing research, a lot of times you might do that seated at a desktop or on a laptop computer. I should also mention that desktop includes laptops, so the labeling there isn't quite adjusted to what it currently, to be all-encompassing, but it is both laptops and desktops in that top category. That's probably a good device for doing more long-range, long-term sessions, so looking at multiple pages and maybe actually sitting down and doing concentrated research. Hence, one thing that we also see is that it has a lower bounce rate than the latter two mobile categories, and the pages per session are also higher. So it reflects that they're doing more of a focused session and going around, clicking around, and doing a bunch of different things with your site. Mobile and tablet, we don't see as much traffic, although it certainly has been increasing lately. Mobile, essentially meaning mobile phones or smartphones. We do see a high number of users. We also see a higher bounce rate, lower pages per session. Tablet, kind of right in the middle. We see very few of those, and the figures as far as bounce rate and pages per session kind of split the difference. It's right in between the two. And so when you think about this, also think about how, we also want to think about how you're putting content in. Seeing that we have almost as many mobile/tablet users as desktop, we want to make sure that the content that we're posting then, it might be a call to action that we want to make sure that it is mobile friendly and can easily be viewed online. So you'll make presentation decisions like that. And that is what we have here for the most part. And so to click it back into the slide, back into the PowerPoint, we essentially went through these four slides already, which I just described the reports themselves. There's also, you guys can expect, we have our quarterly reports that will stack up over time. Those will something that we're looking to provide down the road. And that is just about the end of my session. Just want to kind of highlight this point that we do have data. It does exist. We can report on it. However, in order to make it actionable, we're going to need strategy and benchmarks, and a lot of that I expect to come between you all and your RCMDs. Hopefully you can develop a strategy of this, and we are here to support you in that and to make whatever we can do to make the data more meaningful and actionable. In general, some things I just want to call out about a healthy website. Long-term going forward, you've seen kind of a baseline example here with San Diego, and I know you've got your own reports underway. Following metrics can be used to gauge your site's health, and hopefully these are all increasing along the way. So increased traffic and number of unique visitors, increasing engagement, time spent on page, number of pages viewed in a session. We also talk about conversions, clicking a button, whether it's apply, donate, RSVP. Anything that are being put on your sites, you can measure. You'll want to measure basically their conversion path, and that's something we can talk about down the line. And penetration, how is your region performing compared to what we would describe as similar markets? So obviously, all regions are not are unique and not exactly one-to-one comparison. So you'd want to. We'll also think about what the breakdown is and what might be appropriate benchmarks and points of comparison. All right, and going forward, there's a link here for where you can connect to your RCMD or Google Analytics Dictionary, as well as we have overview and common questions. Okay. And I think that's about it for me. I did see, it looks like there's a lot of movement in the chat right now. I've been kind of keeping it in my eye. I know, Jamie, I've seen you answer a few questions, and I appreciate it. Is there anything else, Jamie, or anything that you want to call my attention to, or anything, Amy, also that I didn't quite capture, or questions that are unanswered as of right now?
Nope, not here. John has posted some interesting thoughts that Laura's chatting through. So what Shelby said, I'll reply with some links to this recording and just reiterate some of the other resources that are out there. But what you can expect from me next is we'll be in this normal rhythm of sending y'all your reports for the previous month, the first week in the Marketing Captain's Blast. And then your RCMD is also equipped to, they're more so looking at data from a broader standpoint, right? So connecting it back to your regional communications and engagement plans. So they're not exactly getting into the line-by-line data like this. So definitely just get in touch with your RCMD and see how you want to like divide and conquer this, so that around a similar point you both are reviewing reports and coming at it from a like monthly standpoint, and then also they can draw the connection to your broader goals. But I know Laura's been replying in chat, I'm here, and Selby's going to hang on the line. So if y'all have questions, you're welcome to shout them out to us now. But if not, you're free to bounce, and you'll get an email from me here shortly.
All right. Great. Cool. Well, yeah, I'm here till 1:30 East Coast time, which is 7 minutes from now. So if anybody has any questions or you want to volunteer to speak up, go right ahead. Otherwise, yeah, just reiterate the point. You're definitely free to bounce.
Bye, y'all. Thanks for joining.
Bye. Thank you.